I'd like to call to order the Design Review Board regular meeting Monday, April 7th, 2014, 5:30 p.m. Simsbury Town Offices, main meeting room. Member introductions. John Carroll is not here. So, John Leshever. Can we appoint John to be alternate for John Carroll? Put that in the meeting minutes. All right, Ron Perry.
Here.
Paul Lanza.
Here.
Anka Dragulski. Anthony Draplick.
Here.
Okay, that's everybody. Discussion and possible actions. First application, number 13-43 of Terry Ann Hahn, LADA PC Land Planners, agent, Town of Simsbury, owner, for a site plan amendment for Simsbury Veterans Memorial on the property located at 725 Hot Meadow Street, map G10, block 203, lot 049, zone SC-1. Hi.
You guys have the pictures?
I do.
We do.
We got the smaller.
We got little guys.
Good evening, I'm Terry Ann Hahn, principal of LEDA PC Land Planners. We're the land planners for the project. We've been working on the proposed Simsbury Veterans Memorial for a number of years, and this site came into discussion in 2013. We had a previous design, and we submitted that to design review back in October, I believe. And design review at that time had a number of different questions and issues that ultimately resulted in the current design. And if you'd like, I can go through the current design first and then sort of hit those issues in terms of what the questions were, because I don't think this board has really seen this, the site plan, even the previous version. So what we're looking at is a memorial specifically for those residents of Simsbury who served as veterans and were killed in action. This goes back to all the way to the Revolutionary War and is about 104 names currently, and is an attempt to take, there are a number of different memorials at various different locations which will stay in place, but we want to bring them all together at a single location that would have a presence on Hot Meadow Street. And this is particularly important to the veterans because they want to make sure that it's part of the streetscape, that is an area that is on Hot Meadow Street. So what we're looking at is Hot Meadow Street is located diagonal across the sheet here. This is the access to the library, which is known as Eaglewood Lane. The driveway for the library comes in, parking lot this way. That off-road parking is over this way. This area here is at street level, drops down, and is relatively low through here. And there's ultimately a stream in this area here, comes across towards me to the parking lots and ultimately Boy Scout Hall and the Congregational Church. We're looking at this corner for improvements for the Simsbury Veterans Memorial that would be created at streetscape level. So what we do is fill in this particular area, extend off the existing sidewalk, and create a gathering area that would be located in this corner. This is a smaller version of our previous designs, in case anybody was thinking in terms of context. But part of the reason is that according to the Simsbury Center Code, no vertical structures, which our columns would be considered, or the flagpole would be considered within 10 feet of the property line. So everything has sort of been pushed back a little bit, not as much as you would think, but what we did was reduce the area that was between the sidewalk and the plaza so that there's a more of a separation. So when your sidewalk, there's an extension sidewalk and then the plaza area. So it's a little bit, it's at street level, but as we were requested to do from the previous design review board, that more of a separation, everyone felt it was a little too close to the existing sidewalk. As part of the previous discussion from the October letter, there was a discussion about, well, how does this project interface with the potential for a future pond, which would is located in the charrette plan in this general vicinity over here. In order to understand that, because the pond does not exist, we actually had to put together some ideas, some preliminary ideas of how the pond might be laid out so that we could look at what those options were. When we looked at that, our original design assumed that the pond level would come right up to the bottom of, or the back here of the retaining wall. And we discovered that one of the concerns that came up, not so much in the discussion with Main Street, a whole bunch of different people, was where do we actually get a sidewalk that if this pond was in place, you get down at the water's edge. And the water's edge would be located about 5 or 6 feet below the existing sidewalk, because that's sort of how it would work out. And there's only one place really that you can get a sidewalk along that, which would be down in this area over here and up around here. So if we put our retaining wall in, the water level coming up to that, there'd be no opportunity for a sidewalk at all. So what we did was sort of separated the two issues and created the Veterans Memorial up here with a slope that comes out the back, so that when the sidewalk goes in, it's just a matter of a small little regrading to interface the two. So you can still put the sidewalk in. It will not interfere in any fashion. I met, when we did this, both with the previous town engineer, Rich Sawicki, as well as the current town engineer, Jeff Shea, to sort of look at this and to have them concur with the conclusion that I was drawing, which is that we were not interfering with whatever might happen next. One of the questions that the previous board had asked was, well, if the pond was there, would you design something differently? So I actually had to design a memorial and presented that to the veterans, and the veterans rejected it. That was not what they wanted. They did not want something that was down at a lower level off the streetscape. They really wanted something that was up on the upper level for streetscape, due to the topographic difference between what the future pond level would be and what the existing sidewalk would be. Any memorial that was at that lower level was not something that they felt was going to be sort of safe and secure, especially until the pond actually came into existence. So we reinforced the idea that we wanted to be up at the street, and that's what the current design shows. There were some questions about size, scope, and the new plan that we have now shows 4 columns, which are representing 4 pillars of democracy, and it's a much more sort of integrated design, where we previously had stone walls and elements that would have the signature, the names on them and symbols, that all of those elements are now integrated directly into and onto the columns, so that you have 4 columns and a flagpole and 6 benches, which represent the various different 6 services as part of the overall scope. So it's a little more open feel than some of our previous designs. But that, what else? The columns are granite, the benches are granite, there's granite connections on the ground plane, and then the main sections of the plaza, which used to be concrete, are now actually going to be pavers, which will be a fundraising effort so that you can get names placed onto the pavers itself. And we'll connect from the sidewalk back using kind of a mix of those pavers, and I also envision a mix of the actual brick pavers from the sidewalk, just to sort of maintain that vocabulary as it goes backwards into the plaza. Did I miss anything? There was a question originally about how high the flagpole would be, and we came to the conclusion that the flagpole, which is located out here, so that you catch the flagpole first, that brings your eye down into the plaza. That'd be approximately 35 feet high. The original suggestion at 40 feet was just a little out of scale for where we were at, but 35 feet should work out okay. The columns now, you can walk around all of them. In terms of lighting, the flagpole will be lit from below, and the columns will be lit from LED fixtures in the concrete, so that all 4 sides, so you can now walk around them, and they all have something on them, will be visible in the evening. But there's no area lights or other illumination that's proposed at night. Let's see. We meet the setback requirements. There was a previous discussion as to whether or not we wanted to ask for a waiver, but that's not the case. I was able to change that so that we now meet the setback requirements. And the area from the sidewalk to the plaza will be grass. We've got a sort of a shaped hedge this way and a more natural interface. I always envision this to be some nice rhododendrons, so that should there be a pond level here, if anybody's been to Middleton Place in June down in South Carolina, you get that magnificent reflection of the pink and purple rhododendrons in the water, which is quite lovely. But Conservation Commission suggested that we might want to change those or add to that mountain laurels, which makes sense to me as well, and is would still accomplish the same task. So we'll probably put PJMs at the top and then mountain laurels down lower. I think that ends my presentation. I'd be happy to answer
The
questions.
sidewalk is not part of this?
Correct. The sidewalk it's an existing sidewalk here.
No, the one that goes behind the memorial is not part of this?
No, that's correct. The pond itself, the sidewalk that goes behind here, that's just done for illustrative purposes to answer the
And a
questions.
question to Hiram. The pond this century?
Well, you know, I keep hearing about it, Tony. I thought we were closer about 6 months or a year ago, but I don't have a specific timeframe now. Obviously, we'd have to raise some money for it and obviously go through the permit process as well. So I don't have a specific timeframe.
And another question, I guess, to Hiram. The connection between the parking lot at the Boy Scout house and was going to be a roadway. It's now a walkway. It's never going to be a roadway?
That's my understanding. That's correct. I had always lobbied for a suspension bridge. I just thought that would be so cool.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a walkway right now.
So I have a question. So the access to the memorial is the sidewalk from the street sidewalk.
Correct. That's correct.
Where is it assumed people are going to park if they want to come and see this? So they're going to park over in
Correct.
the library, and there's no
Correct.
thought that, so they have to walk on the access road to get to the memorial, or is there some way to get from that parking without walking in the road?
Right now, you can walk on the grass. It's level but we did not extend a sidewalk here primarily because there were too many things that were in play at the time. Library was talking about extending the parking. There was, whether that they wanted it or not, because this was on the library board's property. So the idea was that for the most part, you park here or walk on the grass, and it's a direct, easy route. It's mowed. It's level. It's not difficult.
Okay.
When I come, part of from the veterans, you're going to have the pavers, people are going to be able to buy a paver and have their name on it? Is that?
There will be a fundraising effort where there will be inscriptions on the pavers. That's
In
correct.
the memorial?
On the ground plane in this area and in this area here.
Just
Those
opinion,
names
my
of-
opinion, it's awful
Names of
commercial.
veterans.
Pardon?
Names of veterans.
Oh, not the name of the person who put the brick there?
Correct.
Correct. It's not going to be LADA PC land planners.
Okay, so
The-
it's
the
not
I
going
would
to be, I was thinking it's
yes.
awful commercial.
Yeah.
Someone in town who has a relative who's a veteran might want to purchase one of these pavers and have that.
For the veteran. Okay, yeah, all right, that's okay.
Yeah, so I could, my dad who served in submarines, I could put his name on that.
Yes, okay, I understand, that's better.
I'm with John, the parking seems a little difficult. Only thinking of guys in wheelchairs and guys on crutches. Access to it seems difficult for somebody. My father's disabled, so him to get here and park and walk down, he wouldn't walk in the grass. That's
Well, the other alternative is there's parking over here on the other side, and there's a direct walkway.
go around the side. Okay.
Correct. That's correct.
Are there any trees, or is it all bushes?
Right, we're proposing a cherry tree on the other side to sort of offset the flagpole and just sort of continue the circuit. Right now, the entire backdrop of this is wooded. Should the pond occur here, one of the discussions that we were talking about is if the pond does come in here as part of the pond project, they may actually choose to put a series of trees, you know, back for separation, but that's, you have to really get into what the pond is about in order for that discussion. And if we put them there now, it's
Right,
not going to do anything for us.
but kill them,
Yeah, just kill something,
Right.
whether the existing ones or the proposed ones.
right?
Terry, there's another tree on the other side, we're gonna protect.
Oh, that's right, and there's an existing large tree up at the street that we went to a lot of trouble to try and protect that, to make sure that that does not get
Okay.
taken down.
Good.
I'm sorry.
I apologize up front because I know a lot of thought and a lot of work was put into this project, no question about it. But I just wonder how this beautiful complex will be perceived from the road. So as you drive on Half Meadow,
Right.
when you come from Granby, when you drive
Yep.
south,
Yep. You come through
you'll
here, and
definitely
you'll
see
catch-
it beautifully. Same thing from across the street from the Fitzgerald
Right.
Plaza.
Now,
What about when you drive north?
Right, no, and part of the reason why we did that is when you're driving north, first off, right now you have woods, okay? So you're gonna come through the woods, and that's why we put the flagpole out front, so that that would catch your eye, and then bring your eye down as you're coming close. Because first off, I don't really want to distract people coming from that particular direction, because anybody who's driven this way with the merge and then the turnoff, last thing I want to do is actually distract anyone.
Well,
So-
this is, that's what I'm afraid, because you drive, you see everything from the back. As you approach it, you see the back.
Well,
And then you're kind of, oh, oops, what did I miss? And you look back, by the time you kind of pass it, by the time you notice what's there.
well, the idea here was that we were not going to get a 360 degrees, or even 180 degrees. That was never the intent, and
Oh,
we
no.
were well aware of that. So what will occur is, as you're coming this way, the trees are going to block your view all the way past this one here. So at that point, you will see the flagpole, and then you will probably continue on, okay? You might catch a glimpse of it out this way, but that's not, that is intentional, because this area right here, coming from this direction, is a particularly difficult traffic scenario. If you do catch a glimpse of it, what you'll do is that your eye will come in here, and then there will be four columns, but you will probably only see, with the perspective, 2 of them, because the other ones line up right behind it. But that's not, we don't necessarily think that that's a bad thing. But with the flagpole, that's one of the reasons why we pulled the flagpole out front, so that would kind of be sort of understandable area. So if somebody said, all right, I'm gonna meet you, they know it's at the library, where the flagpole is, you know, it's not, this is not intended to be sort of in your face, sort of readily available from that particular direction.
And Hiram, the height is all fine, meets the codes now?
It does.
The height of the columns?
They reduced the height of the flagpole, and they also moved the columns back,
So,
the
okay,
setbacks,
okay.
so they're okay with that, yeah.
Is there any ADA
It's all,
requirements?
the whole thing is handicap
Oh, so,
accessible.
okay, I'm sorry.
Yep,
I took
it's all
those
flat,
as-
there's no
I took
curves.
those as steps.
No, those are just paver
pavers.
bands. Paver bands. No, there's no steps.
Okay.
It's all 1.5%, 2% max.
I just wanted to make sure I wasn't
Yep.
missing the step.
Right. No, I understand.
I know we're sort of, late to this because it started with the previous board. So could you clarify what sorts of functions might be here, or will there not be functions? I mean, is this going to be where Memorial Day will focus, or?
Not at this time. Memorial Day continues to be at Eno Hall. There's a lot of logistics associated with moving the parade down to this area that have to do with street control and that sort of thing. So that is something that should have happened in the future. Somebody, the the police have to deal with that, and that's kind of a compelling reason why we're not proposing that at this point.
Which is
We don't
why I
have
was asking,
control over
really.
that.
Yeah.
We literally have no control over that. We do anticipate a small ceremony for Veterans Day in November, and it would just be, a short speaker or something of that nature. Bruce, were there any other things that you can think of? But I think that's what we were talking about.
That is what we had in
Yeah,
mind.
just a small ceremony, Veterans Day, is what we're anticipating.
What's the capacity, how many people, I mean, I'm just thinking of overflow into
Well,
the street
at
and
this
stuff.
point, because of the way that we've set this up, we actually have a fairly good capacity in the grass area. So, 30, 40 people would not be difficult to have in this area. Once you get bigger than that, then you need police control. And that would be a scheduled event, should that, anything like that happens, but there's nothing currently scheduled. If something needs to be bigger than that, it will probably be indoors, at Eno or someplace of that nature. And that memorial at Eno, by the way, some people have asked us before, that will stay in place, because that's part of the overall Eno front lawn.
So Terry, do you guys have funding for this already?
We have partial, I'll defer that to Bruce, but I believe we have partial funding, and we haven't engaged in full fundraising because every time we think that we're good, the design changes, so we're sort of
Now we
hoping
know
that,
how works.
we
So
really
what's your
can't ask people
process?
for a lot of money to.
Once, if it gets approved, and then what's your process to,
What we anticipated, assuming that we'll get through this board, we have to go to zoning just for zoning approval. We would like to be able to announce at Memorial Day that it's good to go, and that's when we do the fundraising, probably have fundraising through the summer and the fall, and probably start next spring.
What's the estimated cost?
It's somewhere around $150,000.
Hiram, is the Martin Luther King Memorial thing going forward?
I really don't know. I've asked some people from the Historical Society about that, and I asked if they were ready to share any sketches, and I was told they weren't. So I haven't seen anything on that at all, frankly. My understanding is, based on some of the signs that I see, is that fundraising is going on for that. But honestly, that's all I know about at this time.
We had many similarities between some of our previous designs and the Martin Luther King Memorial. Those similarities are less now. We took the glass panels out. There's a number of different things.
More modest than
I'm sorry.
that. The one that Jay Willard did is a little more modest than.
It has more pieces associated with it. This got much simpler, so now it's just the 4 columns.
Who maintains this?
The town will ultimately maintain it. And at this point, part of the reason why we're going with the materials that we're choosing is to minimize any potential, sort of long-term maintenance. Yeah. It's flat, it's grass, there's a sort of easily maintainable vegetation. It's really trying to...
I'd hate to see this in 5 years be overgrown.
At this point, the way that the fill is going to occur back here, the way the separation, you can come back here and you can mow the back of that just to keep it from getting re-vegetated. But basically, it'll be part of the lawn streetscape.
Okay.
any other questions? Is there anything else? All right, be looking for, I guess, a motion to approve design, and then it would go to zoning.
Right after this, you're going to zoning?
Yep.
I'll make that motion to approve.
Second it?
Second.
Thank you.
Don't you have to say what the motion is?
I'd asked him for, oh, you want to read it?
Motion to approve application 1343. For the town of Simsbury, site plan amendment for the Veterans Memorial on property 725 Hot Meadow Street, map G10, block 2203, lot 049, zone SC1.
Great. Second?
Second.
Second it. Motion approved.
You want to take
You
a
have to
vote?
vote.
Oh, we have to vote. I'm sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Motion approved.
know, at $10 a block, you can get that done
So
pretty
we're hoping
fast.
for, yeah. That's
$200 a block,
Not that cheap.
$10 a block. You can buy like 100 of them for that.
Or a block be 150,000.
Is anyone doing anything about the pond? I mean, is that on anyone's?
Oh, it's,
I've tried 3 times so far, I keep getting pushback. I don't know what the
where
reason
the Redstone Pub is. It's the building right in front of Redstone Pub. There's a creaky old ramp.
We're very close when we're
I
talking
took
about
pictures
that.
of it and I didn't bring it
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
It's a creaky old ramp. It's a nail place
Would that
and
be an
a
expensive endeavor?
Sarah Nail or something. The end of that building where Sarah Nail is. It's in the corner and you can't really see it because it's usually covered by
You
cars.
just have to build a dam, really. Yeah.
It's a terrible ramp though. It's a creaky old thing. I don't know the background of it, so hopefully Hiram will fill us in. All right, application number,
Pretty simple, right?
Right.
what? Application number 13-59 of David A. Rickman, agent for DAR Darlar LLC, owner, for a site plan amendment for the installation of a permanent handicap ramp on the property located at 730 Hot Meadow Street, map G10, block 227, lot 002, zone SC1.
Okay, you wanna talk about it?
Hiram, can you just give me a little bit of background on this? I saw these things, so has this been applied to the design review board before?
No, never
Okay.
was. No. David can probably give you the background of it. It was originally put up as a temporary facility, and then didn't meet the requirements, and so we've been working with Mr. Richmond to get him to come in with this design, which meets the ADA requirements for the structure.
Okay.
Hello, I'm David Richmond. I own 730 Hot Meadow Street. Owner is Darlar LLC. We've owned the building now for over 10 years, and we've done a tremendous amount of inside and outside work. We've had a temporary ramp to actually accommodate one tenant. It's not required because of the age of the building, and it doesn't meet any type of ADA code or anything like that, but we've made a lot of changes inside over the years, which has been a great thing. So we've had this temporary ramp, and we just re-signed the tenant, so it's primarily for here again. So what we're doing is we had to hire a site survey company out of Avon because the way the property lines work with the state of Connecticut on Hot Meadow, we had to make sure everything was right with the setbacks and on the side yard variance with Bank of America, which we did. And we had a local contractor meet with us and design what's really a basic ADA compliant ramp that goes, north, then it goes east, then it goes south. Connects right to the staircase. So the only difference will be, what's up there now is just again, a temporary ramp. This will have the right material, the right slope, and the right, there's certain requirements for the railings, et cetera. So it's really it's an upgrade to what we have now. We've been working with the office here for, 6 or 7 months. We didn't come in earlier because of the snow. Wouldn't be able to do anything anyway. We're gonna move some of the landscaping that's up there now. We're not gonna get rid of it. We're just gonna plant it more to the north side. So if anything is removed, we're gonna keep it on the property because in the middle of the summer, it looks beautiful there. And I take care of all the landscaping myself, so we're not gonna move any of that. So that's it. It's a pretty straightforward ADA compliant ramp. Unfortunately, the person that we bought the building from, we have to use certain slopes because there's, the entrance is about, what is it, about 7 feet high? It's about 7 feet off from the ground to the height. That's why the ramp, unfortunately, is so huge or long. So that's it. And I would tell you that the tenant plays a huge role in the community. It's the only hearing center, I think, in town. They used to be up at the north. And while it's not used often in the winter, this becomes their season right around April 1st to around December 1st. So, again, that's the purpose for the ramp, it's for that specific tenant. You can't access anywhere else in the building. So it's, the person comes up the ramp, goes in the hearing aid place, comes out and goes down the ramp. You can't access any other places in the building.
From this ramp, you can't.
It's just for that tenant.
And the rest of the building is grandfathered in, so you don't need
It's all
it?
staircases,
And you don't
second,
need,
third floor, interior. And then the exterior is all retail, what's the word you always tell me? It's the retail space is not, what's the word, I forget the word you always tell me. It's old. It's grandfathered, I guess is the correct word, or.
What is the railing made of? The railing
The,
material?
what's Gary putting in, the prefab, white, composite material.
So you have a
Not wood.
contractor that you've already,
Oh yeah, we've had this whole thing spec'd out. This is gonna cost us $7,000, plus the $1,000 to have the plans drawn up, so it's gonna be very nice.
you're gonna have official drawings of this?
Well, that's about as official as we wanna get, without adding too much to the cost. We've gone through it with Hiram, we've gone through it with Howard. They've actually, Henry's had a listing of all the material. We've worked on this for quite a while.
So you were saying that you thought the height of the platform at the existing building is 7 feet off the ground,
Yeah,
but the print says 36 inches.
no, it's 36 from ground up.
That's what it looks like,
yeah.
the way it's drawn. And, I mean, I did look at it today. It didn't strike me as being
All
7
right,
feet.
yeah, maybe you're correct. It's
Well,
there, was
I guess the
thinking of-
point is, if it's not 7 feet, my question would be why this couldn't be designed to be, a series of
I don't
switchbacks
want to
parallel to the house.
Kill the building.
Pardon me?
It will kill the building and kill our parking. We need as much parking as we can for the tenant. We at one point did that. It
Yeah.
looks terrible.
I don't understand that whole
It destroys the whole,
Is that
you
this
know,
elevation?
we want the building to just have a long series of ramps in front of it. I understand
And this
exactly the
elevation
way,
is-
we tried
So you
it.
thought about it?
Oh, yeah, we drew it
elevation,
up.
yeah.
It just doesn't work.
Well, I noticed from the drawing that the decking material is a variety of colors. You haven't selected the color yet?
It's gonna match what we have now, which is,
Pre-treated lumber appears.
light gray on the flat.
I guess a couple questions, I guess what I'm sensing is, if it looks like the drawing that you have, looks like it's going to interfere with about 2 parking spaces that are currently there.
Correct.
And I don't know if this was your question or not, John, whether that section, whether the initial landing and the proposed ramp could be doubled back? Is that what you're saying, to shorten that up? Is that what you're saying?
Well, assuming it's actually going to have more presence from the street than it does now. Right now, it's just a fairly frail metal ramp. Now it's going to be up and a platform and then up again. It's a pretty big thing to be sticking all the way out into hot metal. So I guess my question is this an appropriate route to take, given how significant this structure's going to look?
I mean, honestly, we'd like to make it smaller for you, I think.
I don't know if it'd be smaller or less, but I mean, he's got to, basically, whatever the lift is, he's got to cover the same lineal feet.
Can't well, appreciate that, but because of the requirements, this is what we have to go with.
Did you ever discuss it with an architect or some kind of design consultant in terms of being able to make it more compact and connect it to the building more?
Well, it does connect to the side. It doesn't go straight up to the steps. It connects, we're actually doing that. We're connecting to the existing entrance platform. Where it says landing, that comes into the existing platform, not straight up the stairs. Yes, the answer to your question is yes. And there's a tremendous amount of plantings on the north side of the ramp. We have high grasses, we have all types of grasses, and actually, I haven't cut them down yet. I'm gonna cut them this weekend probably, but they are fairly large, and you probably won't even notice this.
What about the west side?
West side's parking lot. I mean, west side?
The west side is Hot Meadow.
Right.
So are there plantings between this
I
ramp?
can't plant there, it's owned by the state of Connecticut, unfortunately. And that's a whole other, we maintain that for the state, we do not get reimbursed by the state. So we maintain all those trees, we mulch, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, so I think, there's gonna be this big area of just pavement that's gonna be sitting there,
Say that again?
right? That's all just gonna be pavement, where you're taking over the parking spaces, and then you're gonna have a sidewalk that's gonna dead end into the back of a ramp doesn't even look to be drawn correctly. I guess my first concern is that if you only have to go up 3 feet, why do you need this entire?
Trying to do that math too.
I know, and I was trying to think,
That comes from the building department.
yeah, I know, I mean, we're both architects, so we
Sure.
know what the code is, but I just think this is not
yeah.
drawn correctly.
No.
And there's parts here and this piece here, it just seems it's not even drawn right, number one,
No.
but to have two, it says the bottom one's a landing, but that doesn't look like a landing to me. And then it says ramp, and then it says landing. This doesn't seem to match this. And I know, these railings aren't to code. You can't have more than 4-inch space, and there's height restrictions. There's no details on here that say this is the correct ADA height. You need an intermediate grab rail on there in between them. This is your 42-inch height, and this is your 30, I don't know the exact ones, your 34-inch height, where you have somebody's hand and.
Henry? They went over all this with the building department.
Well, maybe they didn't give us the information, but these don't look
Yeah.
correct to me.
I know you're spending a fortune on this ramp, but you know what? Nobody can build this ramp with these drawings. I'm sure you will have to have real construction
With all
drawings
due
for this ramp.
respect, the builder drew these, who I hired from Simsbury, who's probably met with Henry 5 times on
Who's
this.
the builder?
Sorry, nobody can build out of this sketch.
Somebody could probably build something, but
Yeah,
whether or not it's
you
gonna
don't
look
need
like
an
this,
architect.
No.
or what we think
No.
it's
Well, it has to be
Yeah, you need
ADA,
dimensions and
you have to
I'm
be
just saying, we
ADA
don't know what it's gonna
compliant.
look like.
So we're not trying
I don't think this
to,
shows anything that we need
it's
to
gotta
see.
be ADA compliant. That's the rule of the
But
law.
the sketch,
I agree.
Our question here is, doesn't need a design review specs, not
See,
whether we
Paul.
like it,
Right.
or we like the.
this sketch doesn't show a ramp that's ADA compliant.
So we gotta give them a new sketch.
It doesn't,
Well, again, it sounds to me like there's a couple questions that we need to work on. One is trying to minimize the impact, certainly of that part that's across Hop Meadow, trying to minimize that in some way. Whether it's to turn it another way or to do something, and maybe plantings, and maybe there's room for plantings between that and the property line, David, I'm not sure yet. Take a hard look at. And perhaps, I can talk to Henry again, the building official, and find out a little bit more about the specs on the ramp so that we can get that cleared up too. We don't want, at least on my view, is that we don't want you to go back and forth, but I think I hear the questions that the board's asking, so we could work and try to get those corrected. And I think the color.
You are, part of what, you're hitting on what my concern is, at least from the road. And if it's located that close to the state property line that there's no room for landscaping, then the design needs to be altered so that there's room for something to screen it from the road.
Wouldn't it be helpful to have an elevation of the building to see how it relates to the building?
Sure, we could do that. I mean, we could get you some photographs, obviously, too, that would help a little bit. I think that what people said initially is that the existing ramp, temporary that it is less obtrusive than this would be, you know, currently.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
because the grade probably doesn't work from an ADA standpoint, that may be one of the reasons they're talking about. Looks to me, though, is that the existing ramp is gonna be moved slightly northward, I think,
Correct.
and then connected to that landing.
Correct.
And maybe what we can do before your next meeting is get those questions addressed and get specific details from the building official too, and work with.
The
Yeah.
other thing I'd like to bring up is, to me, this should be as unobtrusive as possible, and if it's gonna be standard, you know, white composite railing, it's gonna scream. Whereas I think your decking now is dark, isn't it? So I would
Black.
suggest that the decking, or
Dark
that
brown.
the railings and the railing system be darker because it would not stand out.
We even tried looking at bringing it from the rear parking lot and up the side of the building for the same. But
It's a long haul.
unfortunately, cost is, it's too expensive. That's the problem doing it
Plus,
that
you're
way.
fighting the hill. I think the rear parking lot's
Right,
lower
right,
now, you've
right.
just added more hill to it, so. But I would want to see the railings, a color sample. and
No, I agree. I
Have it
dark.
be dark and not light.
Plus, the spacing that she just brought up is another consideration. The 4-inch centers is what's supposed to be there, and that appears to be more than 4 inches.
Yeah, and what's the treatment of these, you know, is this just a 2x4 sticking up from the ground? Just a painted white little,
It's all piping.
is this just a pipe?
You mean the,
That's coming out of
the
your
footer?
base?
The bottom where it's
This
connected to
thing?
that's the concrete?
This is the concrete down here. What's coming out of the concrete up to the structure?
Is it pipe, is it pressure
I think
treated?
it's-
it's pressure
6x6, 4x4s?
So like 4x4.
Yeah, so
can
you're just
get
gonna
you
have a 2x4
No, 4x4.
or 4x4?
Yeah, it's
Well,
just a,
it's a question, does that look better than to say, do something more fancy and put lattice under there? And, you know, I almost think it would be better to be less. Even though it looks a
Yeah,
little
maybe.
spindly, it's like,
It looks spindly to me,
but
yeah.
almost, I'm just questioning whether spindly isn't
It's
better.
like it's a
Yeah,
little
I'm
spindly.
worried, standing on that sidewalk right there, you're gonna go, I mean, that railing's gonna be, 5 feet off the ground, right? It's gonna, as it starts to go up, that it's just gonna get,
the one
that
over you
profile
got,
is
the
just
one
gonna
they did
stick
over
right
in,
in your face.
the one the guy just built down at, you know where Route 10 Pizza is?
Yep,
The yellow building, it's like a physical therapist or something, they just put a ramp on the side. They use concrete, which we looked into, which is frightfully expensive. But that's pretty close to the same slope as this one. It's a little shorter, I had met with them. But like you said, they use the white rail, and then we have to put in the interior grab bars.
yep.
But if we could get it, we want to look natural, so so it's there, but hopefully it's not,
Well, yeah, this is gonna be a permanent structure. We
Yeah.
should make sure it's not looking like a temporary structure or a,
and the problem with going across the building, that would be like, you kill the whole
oh, no, I wouldn't.
front of the building, it just, this is really the only place we can put it.
So should we work on those issues
Okay.
before your next meeting? We can talk with him.
Yeah, would you do that?
Do we need a motion for table it or
No.
nothing? No, okay.
Stop in.
Taking that ramp, going the other way, with
tomorrow,
it,
like-
along the side of the building, come back in front of it.
I'll get you some color samples of the
What do you mean?
material. Next meeting, and we'll send them over to you so you guys can, maybe we can do like a color drawing so you get a better.
Well, even if, sometime, I would like to see you bring in a sample of it. if you guys have it.
We'll do. Great, thank you.
So how about height?
Thanks.
What's the
We were talking about that, we can't remember, we were able to check it, send an email.
Yeah.
There's two different ones, there's one that you can get away with where you don't even need a campground, that's a very, very slope, a very shallow slope.
I mean, I was
And
looking at
then
it today,
there's
it's
one,
like, you know,
I
even
think
a
it's either 1 to
crisscross
20 or
Could I-
half inch. where
Could I
you
just,
don't-
if you could just do one conversation so we can get it
Oh, I'm
down, that'd be
sorry.
great, that'd be helpful, thanks. Not that any of them are invalid.
no,
Sorry.
You're right, it's all right.
Carried away.
I was just looking, I don't know, I vaguely think of the building, I know what it looks like, but I'm trying to, instead of him coming towards Hot Meadow, have him go back along the building, the edge of the building, and return back on itself. I don't know how that does
Oh, I see what
with the
you
property
mean.
line. Kinda-
Yep, yeah, exactly.
You know, but I don't know how that does with the property line.
That would be a
It
lot
get
less
us-
intrusive
it would
and you
get
wouldn't
them
lose
closer to
parking
10,
spaces.
9 feet from the property line, which starts to get a little.
Yeah, I think there's some alternative configurations which some of you are heading toward. Didn't go into the fact that we've been working, trying to get this to even this point for over a year. So it's been a struggle for a variety of reasons. I think you heard some of them,
Yeah, and we read some.
So I think all good questions, all good points, and these alternative configurations, I think, are probably the right answer, to me, anyway.
Yeah.
Building ain't pretty to start with.
I mean, the idea of it just heading out to the street like that, it's so prominent.
Especially there.
And it will be much more so than what's there.
It's gonna be right across from the new Veterans Memorial.
Exactly.
That's what I
So-
was thinking.
All right, well, we'll certainly work with them, because I think those are really good suggestions, and that'd be very helpful.
Thanks.
All right, any other discussion items? Nothing for you?
No, I don't have anything else at this
Any
point.
other correspondence that we need to talk about?
Just a note, on the last meeting minutes, it says that Ron Perry was in attendance and I was in Tampa. So I was not.
You were here.
Strike Ron Perry from the
I was in
attendance.
spirit, yes.
And Hiram was here in spirit, or,
I guess
Briefly.
as a discussion item, at the last meeting, I felt like we were really pressed at the end of the meeting to make decisions on the applications because zoning was waiting and, it was 5 of 7. And I know we had talked in the beginning that, when agreeing to move the day of our meetings, that wouldn't happen. So I guess I'm bringing it up in the hopes that maybe we collectively are aware of that in the future and that we table a decision rather than be forced to rush it. Because I think we rushed it last time.
Okay, any specific one, John, that you were talking about? Any specific decisions?
Well, we rushed our vote on the 2 gas stations, which we looked at as one application. They were 2 separate plans. We really didn't discuss it, I think, thoroughly enough. We left too much sort of unspecified. I mean, if you read the minutes, if there's a fence required for the retaining wall, we forgot to ask them about what's the retaining wall going to be made out of.
Okay.
We left some of that out, and we probably would have been more thoughtful, but I think we felt pressed for time.
All right, and I have to apologize too, because I think what I would hopefully be able to do, if you're getting ready to make those kinds of decisions, is have at least a draft motion or some sort of little checklist for you about the types of things that would be helpful. So we can add to them or delete or whatever you want, but I will try hard to make sure that you get that as well. So,
Thanks.
Just as another point of discussion, that handicap ramp as a point, shouldn't we have a criteria for more adequate design information? How does it relate to the building and the neighborhood that it's in?
one of the things that we have,
We have the plan of, we had that big book, and that's what I was trying to say before. What we're supposed to talk about is how whoever brings something to us matches what is in our plan, what is it called?
guidelines.
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 And if it does, or if it doesn't, then we've got to say it doesn't match the guidelines. If it does meet the guidelines, whether we like the design or not, because we're not here to design things for them, then we have to act on how it meets the guidelines. And whether, if it meets the guidelines and there is a 4-inch lolly column holding it up, or a 6x6 that's really the architect to spread to us. And if we say lolly columns don't meet the guidelines, okay. But otherwise,
No, that's a
we
good point.
Although in this case, we had so little information on the plan.
That's true. It's hard to. Yeah, it was less than the best presentation by
So
law.
at what point do you catch the applicant to make sure that he's conformed to the guidelines before?
He is
it
supposed to have
arrives-
done that.
arrives
He's supposed to
here?
look at the guidelines and say, come here and say, this plan, whether it's done by a contractor or himself or an architect, meets the guidelines. And then we're supposed to say, yeah, it does or it doesn't.
A few days.
And if it's white versus black, if the guideline says it should be natural, blend in with the building, and I think it does, then we gotta say, well, it shouldn't be white. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, a few days ago, I just sent out.
Does the applicant have to be schooled better in terms of making sure that he complies with the guidelines?
I think some are, you saw kind of a difference of
Well, that
tonight.
guy that was doing the gas stations at the last meeting, he was terrifically well prepared, both articulating what he wanted and with his design criteria and you know, how the projects go together. So you know, if that's the gold standard, I don't know.
Well, I'd like to recommend that they all be well prepared and look at the guidelines, and I do. And that's one of the reasons a few days ago I sent out to the board, take a look at those, because I suspected that the discussion this evening on this particular one might go in this way. So I think, Tony's right in that, try to take a look at the applications and see whether they compare specifically to the guidelines, whether it's the north end or the town center or whatever, to the best of whatever you think. I think that's all.
And just another point to yours, running short. We have in the past, and we can do now, recess this, go somewhere else in the building, and continue the program.
We can do that.
Yes.
All right.
And I think that where we used to go before is now filled up in our office, right?
Oh, it is, I see, yeah. In other words, not to make it a private meeting, just to be clear, but to sort of adjourn this in case the zoning commission's getting ready to start. So we could go down to probate. And what I should do probably in the future is just make sure that room is available in case we need to do that.
Yeah, and then we have, we got a lot of time.
Yeah, that's good to know.
It's a little crowded, but
Yeah,
We could fit that, sure, okay.
good to know.
Good point, good point, yeah.
should we approve the minutes?
Yeah, looking for a motion to approve the minutes with the one change noted that Ron Perry was not in attendance.
I so move.
Didn't even send a.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. All right, if there's no other items, I
I
move.
move we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right,
Thank you very much. Good job.